What's up, guys? So, as you may have seen, I just posted a video with my Autel EVO 2 Pro shooting 6K normal color mode, and I figured I would show you, since it's already edited. I actually did a little video before, but it took too long to kind of talk through the editing process and actually just cut to the color grading part, and I had to render out the video and stuff. So I figure probably the best way, or the simplest way I should say, is just to show you really quick and kind of reverse what I did with some of this footage in Final Cut Pro. So I'm on a Mac, an iMac, and you can see this is the footage, and I'll show you what my adjustments were. So here's with no color wheels and with no effects. So you see the two little adjustments. So we're going to go back over here in the upper right hand corner. I'm in Final Cut Pro, mind you. I'm going to go to the color inspector, and what I did is I used color wheels. So you can go down here and choose color board, color wheels, color curves, use saturation curves. I always use color wheels personally. I don't know why, because they're probably pretty simplistic. The left side affects the saturation and the right side is the exposure. This is global, shadows, highlights, midtones, and it's going to affect each accordingly. So shadow saturation, midtone saturation, highlight saturation, highlight actual exposure, etc., etc. So you see with just the color wheels on this actual clip, this is again shot with my EVO 2 Pro in 6K in normal color. And I would highly suggest you guys try that because it is really pretty darn impressive. And I haven't shot 4K in probably, I bet you almost a year with this drone. Honestly, the 8-bit 6K footage holds up to me, color grading wise, as good as the 10-bit log 4K. So for whatever that's worth, and this footage still looks way better to me than the Mavic 3 footage. Look at this with just a little color wheel. Come on, there we go. Oh, why is it not? Oh, maybe because of this, the effects. There we go. So check that out. As shot, boom, color graded a bit. Let me go again. Full screen. Boom, I'm hitting Command Z and then Shift Command Z to redo. But that's as shot 6K footage. And that's just with the little color grading and a teeny bit of sharpening. And I'm going to show you how I did this with literally ease. So essentially all I did is go over to, again, this little triangle, the color inspector, and I created a color wheel, and I went ahead and I tweaked the global saturation. Now I'm going to Command Z to undo just to show you, but I can bring this down. You don't have to go so extreme, but this is what's going to affect basically the saturation globally, so everywhere. And if you ever go too far, just hit Command Z or whatever your undo command is, and boom, back to where we're at. So this is what I did. I just affected literally the saturation globally, and then I pushed up my highlight exposure just a teeny bit. And then over here, I have a plugin, My Final Cut I think it's My Final Cut Pro Effects. But it's this little finishing plugin. I'll try to find the link for you guys, but literally you just drag this onto your clip. I'm not going to do it because it's already there. And then you go to this little film strip area, and this is where that finishing plugin is. So all I did is tweak the little vibrancy in the highlights, and I did a little detail fine. So this is essentially all I go to. I usually play around with vibrancy highs, and sometimes when you're tweaking this, the highlights can get blown out, so be aware of that and pay attention to your scopes and stuff. But this is what I touch basically when I'm using this, and if this is too much for the highlights, then all I do is use either depth fine, not even depth fine, 95% of the time I use details fine. So this details fine essentially is like an unsharp mask to me, and I think the details is almost more of like a high radius sharpening. That's kind of how I would explain the equivalent to, say, Photoshop or something for me photographically. So details fine, again, kind of like an unsharp mask, and the details is like a high radius sharpening. So all I did is tweak the details fine a teeny bit, and that's it. And that is your color grading to get to this point for normal color 6K EVO 2 Pro footage, and it looks really good. So for whatever that's worth, I don't know. It just looks pleasing. I don't know. Every time I look at it compared to the Mavic 3 footage, for example, I never felt that about the Mavic 3. For whatever that was worth, and it wasn't because I didn't want to. I wanted to, but I didn't. So let's take a look over here at something else. Maybe even like this footage right here. So we're going to just see. We'll go full screen. Let me lower the volume a teeny bit. But look at that. I mean, I did a little sharpening and the exact same thing. And all I'm doing, all you have to do is do the first clip. So I go ahead and adjust my first clip, right? I add a color wheel. I add the plugin. Tiny bit of sharpening. I hit Command C on my Mac. I go to the next clip. I hit Shift Option V, and that will paste the attributes to the rest of the clips. So if one of them needs a little tweaking because the lighting was a little different or something, I may just kind of tweak the midtones or whatever it may be, or bump up the exposure a bit. But for the most part, literally, I can go ahead and edit this thing in 5 minutes, minus maybe syncing the music and just making it a little bit more creative. And with more resolution, if you're doing a 4K output, you can do like little Ken Burns movements and stuff and kind of risk cropping in a little bit because you still have that extra resolution. So I'm hoping this helps because it really isn't that complex. And if you want to see here, let me go ahead and take one clip in that isn't there. Let me go ahead and find something. No, this needs to go minimized. So here, maybe, I don't think this clip is in that. So we're going to bring this over here, and I won't copy and paste. I'll just do it and try to match the footage that I already shot. So let's go ahead and bring it over here. It's going to be out of sync, but right now I'm going to go over here and kind of scrub, see where the better part of the movement is. I don't even know if there is a good part of the movement. I'm going to get rid of this by hitting Command B to slice it, and then delete. And then I'm going to make sure this little head is on the clip, make sure it's selected, and I'm going to go to this little triangle in the upper right hand corner, show the color inspector. I'm going to go color wheels, and all I'm doing with this 6K normal footage is boosting up the saturation a bit. Now it looks a little bit maybe needing some contrast. So I don't know if I want to do this or a teeny bit of the highlight. And then I'm just going to drag this finishing plugin over to the clip. I'm going to move one little tab over from the triangle. See this? Go to my little effects pad. And then all I'm going to do is maybe play with the vibrancy high. And that looks pretty darn good. And it seems like it's not blowing out any of my highlights. And then I'm just going to go a teeny bit with the details fine. And it just kind of crisps up and comes to life. And look at this. So that was what, like 30 seconds? No effects as shot. That's all it takes to literally tweak your 6K normal color mode footage out of your EVO 2 Pro 6K. I mean, even the Nano Plus raw files took way more energy. And this is like beautiful 6K footage, and it just does such a good job. Like, look at that. That looks great, right? Now, here, effects off. As shot, doesn't look bad. You know that you can bring this thing to life. So this is as shot raw footage. Doesn't look bad, but again, 30 seconds of a few different tweaks, and voila. A little sharpening, not too much. You can see a lot of detail. The color is beautiful. The highlights aren't blown out. The sky looks intact, and just really juicy, beautiful EVO 2 Pro 6K love. So, yep. Sorry, Mavic 3. You don't do this, but still a cool little drone, but not like what this EVO 2 Pro 6K throws out, and that's a fact. So, shooting my EVO 2 Pros more lately, and really, really glad that I am doing that. And another thing that I was wanting to talk about was just shooting your drone like I was doing in zones like this, pointing the gimbal up past 90 degrees and just flying low to the ground. I mean, look how beautiful that is. I'm just kind of cruising, doing a little movement. Maybe I'll start raising the gimbal up or down. You can do a low orbit kind of deal, but it's a really unique way to draw emphasis visually on the sky if it's a really nice sky day, by just kind of creating a little bit with shooting low, pointing your gimbal past 90 degrees. This is just a really creative, good way of using your drone by flying low and just watching your drone so you can, get closer to branches or whatever it may be and not have to worry. And by pointing your gimbal past 90 degrees up at the sky, drawing emphasis on the sky and something like this subject that really worked well for this example. Pretty cool though. Hope this helps. I want to just share a bit about how simple it is to color grade your EVO 2 Pro 6K footage in normal color, and it's 8-bit but still works killer. And I had some friends at their studio kind of push it who work with DaVinci Resolve and color grade really beautiful footage and do this for a living, and they were even blown away with how impressive the 8-bit 6K footage was compared to the 4K 10-bit. So for whatever that's worth, that was all I needed to know, that 6K was the way to go, and that's my preferred setting with my EVO 2 Pro 6K. So, sound confusing? 6K, normal mode for the win. Hope this helps, guys, and aloha. See ya. Bye.